Anywhere you want.
I was usually a pretty good little girl, but I did have a few fights with my sister Irma, the one that was a year and a half older than I. One day she would not help me separate the laundry, so I just grabbed her by the dress and kept pulling. I ripped the dress right off of her. It must have been rotten cloth, but it was her favorite dress. When I was 14 years old, one summer I had to do all the house cleaning and cooking and take care of my baby sister, 2 years old, and my nephew, 2 years old.
Oh, Howie and Julie.
We ate a lot of tomato sandwiches and macaroni and cheese. All my sisters at one time or another took care of the house. One sister was so neat and clean, we couldn't walk on the floor after she mopped them, or we would get a frying pan over our head. That's Louise. When it was my turn, I didn't have to hit anyone. I just didn't mop the floor. One day, as I was supposed to be watching my little sister and nephew, I went to sleep under the apple tree. When I awoke, they were romping on the flat roof over a porch. They crawled out the bedroom window leading to the porch. When I went to get them, they started to run, almost went over the edge. That taught me a lesson so many years later. When I took care of so many little children, I kept a good watch on them. They thought I had eyes in the back of my head. Jesus loves the little children.
Yeah, he must.
You almost went off there, you and Howie. You're having so much fun up there. And I was asleep having you're supposed to have your nephew and Howie upstairs. And they crawled out the bedroom window. The bedroom window led onto the porch roof. And they're running back and forth and laughing. And I thought, where are they? And I look up and they're running almost to the edge. And I thought, oh my gosh.
Did you go up on the roof and get them, or you tried to?
I went upstairs to the window, and I had to. I didn't want them. I had to be careful. I remember I was smart enough to know I had to be careful how I got them to come to me. So anyway, I think I told you I had some goodies for you or something. You know, you were too young, and you both came. She brought you to the window.
How old were they?
I think it was 2 years old.
Oh my goodness!
That she was a bad girl.
Now, what house was this?
That was on Tannery Ground. You didn't see that house.
Oh my goodness.
But that taught me a lesson, though. I did keep a good watch on the little children that I took care of on the beach.
You trained her. You were a good trainee.
Did I ever tell you about the time I used the man's restroom? I was at the mall, and I walked in this odd-looking restroom. 2 funny-looking sinks along the wall, and only one toilet with a door. I thought, oh well, new ways. So I proceeded to do my duty. Pretty soon I heard plump plump. It didn't sound like a woman. Then I heard tinkle tinkle. Where is she doing that? I was rattling toilet paper, and I heard the door slam. I couldn't figure how she could finish peeing and pull up her pants so quickly and go as I leave. I'm walking backwards, still wondering about the odd-looking thing. Finally, it dawned on me that it was a man's restroom. I think the man that came in saw my shoes under the door, under the door opening, and did a quick zip. I don't think he finished his thing.
How old were you? How old were you when you went in the bathroom?
Oh, that was in Florida here.
Oh.
And so I
You were an adult, but you
yeah. I don't think he finished his tinkle. I often wondered if a man could shut it off like a woman. Oh well, tinkle, tinkle time. In 1991, I became addicted to baseball. It didn't matter what team, just as long as it was a game. But now, 1992, I watch the Braves, even catch myself talking to the players. I'm not too good at knowing fouls or strikes yet, so I do not approve of the umpire's calls, always. I think I should have a hatchet.
I'm sure the umpire's glad you don't have a hat. Do you watch the Devil Rays?
Yeah.
Oh, they changed it. My
It's not
mother-in-law-
Devil Rays
Yeah,
anymore.
every-
Good now.
Yeah, now
And they've
it's good.
taken the word devil out. You know, I wrote to the Times, I said if you, the first year they were doing so bad, they failed so much, and I wrote to the Times, if you take the devil out and put the S-O-N in, maybe they would do better. Well, now they're just called the Rays. They don't, but they didn't answer, put my thing in the paper.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
But they finally listened, because you and a lot of people said, get
Yeah.
the devil out of there, and they started winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my mother-in-law said too.
Oh, really?
I think there were so many people like you right
There
into
was. A lot of people said, why'd they choose the Devil Rays? There's no such thing as a Devil Ray, I don't
Yeah.
think. Is there?
Yeah, there's a Devil Ray.
So now they
There was
just
something
call
on
them the
television
Rays.
on one of the news programs. I heard it, must have been last week, shortly after I got, well, no, one of the first days I turned the television on, so it was last week.
Mhm.
And, yeah, there was I heard something about it. I wasn't paying too much attention, but I remember them saying if they get this out of their name, they change the name of the team, they'll do better, and they've done better since they did, so.
Yeah, it's been what, about a year or two since they took Devil out of it?
I don't know. It's like-
Yeah, just keep going until you...
I was a pretty good little girl, but I did try smoking when I was about 9. We made mega cigarettes out of burlap bags
Ew.
and newspaper.
Ew.
Don't let my great-grandkids see this. Oh well, where can one find burlap bags in this day and age anyway?
How did you feel when you did it?
I don't know, it was just stupid.
What
I
did
didn't
it
get
taste
any-
like?
I didn't get any, I don't think I breathed it way in or anything. They were mega cigarettes, rolled it up in newspaper, burlap bag, the magazine.
It would have tasted,
You probably did.
I was about 9 years old when I did that. Will someone tell me why it is always easier for me to try to open doors just the opposite way of what they are meant to work? Or why can't I remember faces? No one remembers names, but I never remember faces. It is pretty embarrassing when 3 Sundays in a row in it 3 Sundays in succession. Is this your first time visiting our church? Don't talk about my poor spelling after I die. Just laugh. Ha ha. Oh, I had 2 good kids. Ronally must have been one of them. While they were growing up, I say 2 because the 3rd one wasn't so good. But being so good, what exciting incident can I write about? Ronnie wasn't quite as good as I might think of a couple of things. But Edward, now he was something else. I could finish this book about him. As a little child, Edward liked bugs. I tried to give him a lesson on good and bad bugs. Scorpions are bad, I showed him when I found it under the vacuum cleaner one day. The next evening I sliced green peppers lengthwise and fried them. He pointed to them and said, "Corpiama, corpiama." What an indictment on my cooking. I thought they were scorpions. My green peppers. Yeah. When Edward was about 4, I took him into a Goodyear store. He walked over to the rack of fish poles and pushed them over. Embarrassing. Do you remember, Edward? The day you walked up to the large cement flower pot and pushed it over, and the people that are around it, that owned it, sent me a bill. Do you remember, Edward, the day you tipped an old wooden ice box over on you and you lived? Do you remember when you went up the steps leading to the roof of the house next door and you fell down either from the roof or high step and landed about 4 inches from a steel stake, and you lived? You did turn blue, though. Yeah, knocked the breath out of me. Do you remember the time you tipped the little gas range over and you ended up covered with bacon grease and coffee grounds? Oh, I forgot about that. All this under 5 years old. I leave the rest of the page after I think of something nice. If I don't think of one thing before I die, you fill it in. And then
See, I don't remember any of that because that was the time that I was having those spells, and I don't remember those things that Eddie used to do. I just remember him and Billy Smedley going up and down the sidewalk on their little tricycles, and I can remember Billy sneaking up behind him and hitting him in the back of the head with a hammer. Because Billy could never get the best of Eddie. He hit him from behind.
Maybe that's where Dylan gets all his stuff.
And they were the best of friends. Well, they were both the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you had your spell? How old were you?
I think from possibly the time just before I started school, because they noticed it first in first grade, or the teacher did. So I must have been 6.
And it lasted till what, 12?
Till I was about 11, or a bit over 11.
We had them before that, but we didn't recognize it. That's
So
what it
then
was.
when it started, when I was
Probably about
around 4 or 5.
And how did you what did you do?
Well, how I finally figured something was wrong. I thought she was always just ignoring me when she'd have a spell, and you were about 4 years old. And then, and you were having them, and then one day when you were 5 or 6, I said something to you, and you just, and I said, when I talk to you, I want you to answer me, and I slapped you across the face with the back of my hand, and you're still not, and then I said, something's wrong with her. That's how I found out, and then I took her to the doctor, and that's what he said, petit mal epilepsy. And then he started giving you medicine, now that it was too strong, and your eyes were, well, it that wasn't the medicine you should have, it was for grand mal, but not for
petit
and then, of
mal.
course, Mrs. Kane, said to give you that diet, and I don't know how you did it, but I used to make everything into a drink, all kinds of fruit, and it'd be about a quart, and you had to drink it every day. And,
I don't remember
gave
that. I
you-
do remember the goat's milk.
And the goat's milk, we bought you goat's milk, and bought the best of meat without fat and everything, and you got better, but of course I always say it was prayer, but I guess now I say it was God giving Mrs. Koenig the idea of the diet for you, and then all the people of the church praying for you, because I told you about making the clock and people signed, so somebody was praying for 48 hours around the clock. And so that had a lot to do with her healing too, because she healed so, got over them so quick. I noticed it within about 2 weeks you were having them, well, first you were having them every 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, really?
And, not at first, but I mean towards the end you were having them every 5 minutes. And then when they started praying in your diet, then I noticed different. You weren't having them quite as often, and then later on you weren't having as many, or then all of a sudden, a few weeks, it wasn't any more than a month, and you were all over it. You didn't have them anymore. So I think I always said, well, it was prayer, answer to prayer.
Yeah, I don't remember having them that often. And
Towards the end, every 5 minutes you would have.
You would blank out?
yeah, and of course, when I blanked out, everything blanked out. That's why Mom could slap me on the face, and I never felt, I didn't know. That's something I never knew about, because I didn't feel it, I didn't see it, I didn't hear it, I didn't, nothing
Nothing registered.
senses. So, I think because I can't remember much of those years except, things like getting caught under the dock in the lake here in Clearwater, where I went with Mrs. Lindsay and Pam, and I forget who, we went to her sister's house, and we went over across the road or down the road and over to the lake, and the lake was real high. There was a lake here somewhere that had a dock on it. We went swimming in the lake, and we went under the dock, but the lake was real high because I think there'd been a lot of rain, and we were just going under. You got the main beams, and you got the walkway, and you go under, and there's air under there, and we were doing that. And when I was going under the middle one, or the outside one, I forget which, I had a spell, and I was under the beam, under the water, and I actually came out of it. I came out from under the beam and popped to the surface just as the spell was ending, and I was just about out of breath, and I was okay. I never told you about that one. Those things that I wasn't supposed to do when I had those spells. But things like that I would remember, but most of the everyday things I don't remember from those years.
Well, I remember that, well, Pam watched you real close, and I remember that I began to not be concerned about you going swimming, because when I went with you, I noticed when you had a spell, you would pop right up out of the water. So after that, I'd let her go, and just with Pam, I didn't have to watch her or anything. And you could, as you would have a spell, you would pop up out of the water. Something about the spell, I guess.
Or the lack of oxygen caused you to...
Yeah, well, no, that one in the lake, I would have popped up if I hadn't been under the beam and it hadn't held me underwater, but I must have moved just far enough sideways and came up, you know, and I popped up the same as I always did. But, yeah, I had things like that happen. I can remember things like that, but every day I can remember having, well, I don't remember having the spell, but I remember coming out of the spell, straddling my bicycle right in the middle of Gulf Boulevard, down at the end. We decided to go down to Gulf Boulevard and then go along Gulf Boulevard to ride our bikes to school.
Yeah.
Only instead of turning the corner like Pam and Gail did, I had a spell and I went straight, and I'm in the middle of the road when I came out of it, and the cars are tooting at me, and of course nobody knew, and Pam was frantic, I think, trying to get me to come out of the road. And when I came out of the spell, I was back on the sidewalk and around the corner, and
Like, wow.
Yeah, you ran into a car, too.
oh yes, that was when I was cycling on a Saturday afternoon when I was supposed to be resting before we went to choir practice. I think that was on a Saturday, yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon, and we were riding up around the Gulf Winds. And you know, the road that goes between the buildings, you know, we were on one of those. And it was nearly at the end block of Gulf Winds apartments there, and there was a big black car parked there, and I had at one of those spells, and when I came out of it, I had the front wheel of the bicycle was crunched into the bumper of the car, and I had smacked the hood of it, and I didn't feel anything, but Pam, I guess, came back to see what had happened, and I was bleeding, and they were frantic. I didn't know. I went back home. I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. And I went home, and when I looked in the mirror and saw what had happened, it cut my lip down here and banged my teeth. When I saw it in the mirror, then I felt it, and then it hurt. I think I cried.
Did that guy ever call?
Nobody, no adults or anything. I didn't do anything to his car.
Oh.
Nobody actually saw me. It was just we kids riding our bike, and I knew I wasn't supposed to
Did
be
I
out.
take you to the doctor?
Yeah, you took me to the doctor, and it had to be stitched up, and I had real fat, puffy lips for a while, and that's what killed my teeth.
But that day you weren't supposed to ride. I had stopped you from riding your bicycle. I told you shouldn't ride your
Only
bicycle
I
anymore.
went out
I
when
think
you weren't
snuck
watching.
it out.
Another sneaker.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
True
I think I'm your
confession.
mom.
Now she'll let you get away with it.
And Kim took after me. She sneaked out too.
See? Sends a thing.
That was a funny one when Edward took the little gas range over, and I always stored bacon grease in it, a can of bacon
Oh,
grease.
so it wasn't hot?
And,
No.
no. And it wasn't, the stove wasn't on. It was a tiny little gas stove that was in the apartment when we moved there. And they tipped it over, and all this bacon grease and coffee grounds.
Oh, my goodness,
How
like
old
being
was he?
tarred and feathered?
How old was he when that happened?
That's first. He was probably about 4. I'm not sure about that. He wasn't any older than that. He wasn't in school yet. Well, so I've left a space for him.
When he does something good?
Yeah.
But at that point, she can't remember anything.
Oh, then I've written down here, but when you reached 40 years, you did get to be a loving, kind, thoughtful, honest, and good. Praise the Lord. Is this interesting to
Yes,
you?
it
Oh,
is.
yes.
See, we're getting to get the details.
This is history.
Yes.
Herstory.
Herstory.
Yeah, herstory.
Well, let me
Her
see.
story.
Saturday night was bath time in the big house in Cheshire when I was a little girl. We got 1 bath a week in my young days. My mom had a big round galvanized tub. 2 at a time got in the tub. The tub was placed by a big pot-belly stove. I got out to dry and backed my little rear end into the stove. I had to sit on pillows for weeks.
Oh, ow.
Then Pop put a furnace in the house with registers and then a bathroom inside with a big white tub. What luxury in those days. We even had bought toilet paper. No more outside toilet using Sears Roebuck catalog. No more putting pea pots under the bed at night. And worse yet, to have to empty them out in the back house every morning. That's the way it was. My children, I'm talking to you, my children, how fortunate to be born in a more modern age. I was kind of a young, dumb mother when Bobby was born. He was such a handsome little boy that I made the mistake by telling him they mixed him up. Oh gosh, I was so dumb. In the hospital. At my age now, I kind of forget just how I told him, but I am sure he can tell you how I told him, because such as that, little children never forget, and it affects their whole life. But he was always such a good baby, and really Mama's little darling for 5 years. Then I did another dumb thing. Ronnie was born, and I turned all my love and attention to her.
So it wasn't a dumb thing having Ronnie.
And I wrote at the end, "Your dumb mother."
But Bobby told me he always believed that he was adopted because he didn't have red hair like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Where did he get the black hair?
Bobby's hair always, he was the only one that had the brown hair.
But it was real dark. It registered as black to me.
No, it was brown.
Really dark brown.
It was brown, and yeah, he always thought because he was different, you know.
But I
He had-
told him that. They didn't.
Well, that might have been.
Why would I do such a thing to a child?
Up in the hospital. So anyway,
Your dumb mother.
it might have been from that he thought that he was adopted because he didn't have red hair.
He still remembers that too, that I told him that he was.
You know, I guess at that age, at 5 years, he probably would
Yeah.
remember.
Mhm.
He'd feel a lot better if you'd come clean. Tell him exactly where you got him. Confirm all his suspicions.
Then 5 years after Ronnie, Edward was going to be born. I said I'd rather go around with a big stomach the rest of my life Not that I didn't want him, but I was afraid to go through childbirth again. But for the first 3 months, I couldn't decide if I wanted to keep you or not. Cry, cry, cry. The only way I could get some sleep was to lay you across my breast. Often wondered if you still like to sleep that way.
Auntie Eleanor, how risque.
Has Edward ever seen any of these yet?
He hasn't seen it. This is the first anybody's seen it. Some of these things I might mention to June.
Yeah, I remember.
But not.
But not to us.
I wrote it. I said it's some fun things for you to read after I die. That's what I'm saving it for, to give to the kids.
Oh.
But Ronnie's getting
A preview.
I'm getting a preview.
Yeah.
That's
But
okay.
then they should pass it on to you after Edward and Bobby. see it,
I
so
won't tell them if you don't want me to.
No, don't
And if you
tell
really
them.
want to afterwards, you can slip in like 6 or 7 blank pages
Oh.
after that.
No, don't tell them about anything
No,
about
I won't. With my memory, I probably won't remember, but
Speaking of outhouses again, your father's father owned a summer home in the mountains of Massachusetts. One time when I went in the outhouse, there was a huge snake where you sit.
Oop, hold on.
I
Flip it out.
didn't have to go right then.
Hold on.
But seeing
Just a minute.
Just that tape ran out. She's gonna flip it over.
Oh, do you flip it over?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. I'm glad you know how to
Oh.
do it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I didn't have to go right then, but seeing that snake scared the you-know-what right out of me.
Yep.
1992. Today I was telling a little girl, 5 years old, at the Sunday school about the happy time I had at her age. The Methodist Church in the little town of Cheshire would have their yearly picnic right across from our home in a big cow pasture, and it had a brook where all the children went swimming. That little girl said to me, "What is a brook?" My, how times and words have changed. Yeah, I think of that a lot, like parlor now,
Yeah.
who's the sitting room, and then it's a Florida room, and now it's an entertainment room or something.
Mhm.
A lot of words have changed. When I was a little girl, we had a cellar. In the fall, we would put all our vegetables in the dark cellar. It was just a dirt floor on in those days. We would store barrels of apples and pears from our trees, carrots, cabbage, potatoes, beets, and all the canned fruits and vegetables. Then in a special pantry in the house, we stored flour, cornmeal, plums in big crocks. We sure ate good all winter. The dark cellar was real dark, no light in there in days. One day when I went to get an apple, did I ever scream? When I was about 4, I remember that Mom would take me, I didn't finish that ice cream because there was a big rat I grabbed instead of an apple.
A big what? Rat.
A big rat that I grabbed instead of an apple.
Did you not take a light down there, or you just?
No, I just
Oh, you just go in the dark.
grab an apple every day after school.
That would be a little surprise.
Mhm. But I didn't write the rest of it, why I screamed. Did I ever scream?
No, see, that's why we have this tape.
And the
But I
Those
video.
didn't do it
details.
Because I grabbed a big rat.
What did you do? You just screamed and threw it?
Yeah, I went fast.
You didn't get your apple that day.
I don't think I did. I'm sure I didn't.
Did you ever go back down the cellar to get apples the next day?
Yeah, I had to have my apple when I came from school. But I think I was more careful or something. When I was about 4, I remember that Mom would take me for a walk through the cemetery. That's up there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would come home and have bread and milk for lunch. Then Mom could play the piano. I often wonder where my brother Floyd was. He was just 1 year to the month younger than I. I can't ever remember of him being with us. All my other sisters and brothers were in schools. Those were happy times, but where was Floyd? I don't know.
Oh, you don't know where he was?
No, he must have been home sleeping, and Mom would take me a walk. Just me.
You must have been a good kid.
I was.
And Floyd must have been a good sleeper.
You stay put. Yeah.
Then I grew up, or was I grown up? At 16, I fell in love with your father and got married. He was such a kind man all during courtship. I always have tried to find out what happened. I really can't understand all the following years, but so often felt it was something I did or didn't do. I had never been sent, this is something else. I had never been sent in the working world in my life. So here at 48, I am a widow and must work. I enjoyed my work as a nurse aide. I took several short courses at junior college. One Christmas, after working only 2 months at Majestic Towers, I was handed an envelope with my Christmas bonus. After counting over $200, I took it back and told the nursing director she made a mistake and she gave me all the help bonuses to me. She laughed and said, "It's all yours, Eleanor. Go take a cruise and have a good time."
I was in the car.
How
were you?
naive can one be at 50 years old?
You started counting. We were driving home, and you started counting, and she had this panic look like, "Oh, Barbara, take me home, right? Take me back. Take me back. They're going to be so mad at me. I have their Christmas bonus. Take me back."
Oh, what a viewer.
I was in the car.
Oh.
Yeah. And when you came back out, you had this look on your face like, "It's all mine."
$200 was a lot.
Yeah.
In those days.
Yeah.
I thought it was 600.
So I wrote, how naive can one be at 50 years old? But I'm sure none of the rest of them got the $200 bonus.
They liked you.
Isn't that something?
For never being out in the world, I was quite great. I did go to Michigan and went on many job interviews, even into wealthy areas, but did feel out of place being called a nanny. So went into the area of blue-collar workers and went to work for the Pratt family, a red-headed girl, 8 years old, and a boy, 10 years old, and their dad. While in Michigan, I got my high school diploma and entered junior college. Bobby saw my curriculum and thought I should take something easier. I was going to cancel the next day but thought I had